Manhattan Neighborhood Network, in partnership with the League of Women Voters of New York, Gotham Gazette, and the New York Amsterdam News, is pleased to bring you an interview with Marni Halasa, the eco-justice candidate running to be elected in City Council District 3. I'm Eleanor Tatum, publisher and editor-in-chief of the New York Amsterdam News. New York City's general election is Tuesday, November 7th. Welcome, Marni.
Thank you.
So, what has made you decide to jump into this race?
Okay, well, it's no secret that I'm this theatrical protester. So I've gotten major national and international media attention, dressing up in these costumes with these sort of artistic installation pieces. I founded an organization called Revolution is Sexy, and really that was to spread sort of progressive messages in the media. But I feel like running for city council is really the ultimate protest. And who knew that I would actually be protesting what is happening in my own backyard? So my platform is really about the hyper-gentrification going on in my district, and supporting a piece of legislation called the Small Business Job Survival Act that I feel like is not getting much attention. So 28 city council members have signed on to it, but you know, I feel like people are paying lip service. So they say they sponsor it, and everybody laments that all the businesses are closing, but nobody seems to be really pushing it.
Well, you would represent a very wide district.
I do,
and
I do.
It's kind of very eclectic
Yes.
as well, and very different needs in all the different parts.
Right, right.
So you've got everything from nightlife to the garment district. Now there's currently a plan that the mayor was talking about moving a lot of the garment industry over to
right,
Sunset
which when
Park.
I talk to people, they're furious about it. So it's interesting. I've gotten some word from some elected officials that I talk to. They say that this should happen, and actually people in that district want it to happen. They want it to move to Brooklyn, but the people that I talk to, they want the garment district to stay there. So that's, I think, a very important point, because sometimes you get two different, opposing views, and which is the real narrative. But the people that I talk to in the garment district, some of my friends that are costume designers that design for Broadway, they do not want the garment district to leave. That's very, very important to say.
Well, I mean, yeah, it would be very difficult to get Bette Midler's gloves fixed.
Of course, yeah.
Between the matinee and the
Right. And all the other
show.
things that go on as well that, that ordinary people, partake of, so I think that's important.
And what about housing in the district?
Right where I live, 34th between 9th and 10th, there's Hudson Yards. So these huge, monstrous buildings are going up, like really gentrifying the area. And those developers get the 421A tax subsidy. What I'd like to do is take away that tax subsidy, and the city can actually have $1 billion and put that towards affordable housing. And I think the narrative is that, oh, you need to give an incentive to developers to build in Manhattan or else they're not going to build. I believe that that's a myth. Developers are going to build in Manhattan. It's attractive. Any developer is going to see this as an opportunity. So that's one thing that I'd like to get rid of. Also, I'd like to reinvigorate Mitchell-Lama, where there's permanent affordable housing. So that was a program in the 50s that happened. And that's something that I think that low and middle income people could really benefit from, to actually own their apartments. I mean, that's a way for social mobility to happen, a way for these families to actually get some stability. So I would do that as well.
Well, what we're seeing right now is the Mitchell-Lama developments actually trying to get out of the Mitchell-Lama program and sell off.
Right. So we should implement mechanisms to stop that. So, I mean, for me, coming from a protest background, and now I'm being advised by some academics. I mean, for me, my first instinct is to, if we don't like something, we need to protest. We need to scream about it. We need to get the public engaged, put these kinds of messages into the mainstream media so people can actually, understand what's going on. But it's more complicated. Obviously, you need to get, partnerships, public-private partnerships, nonprofits. You need to get people more engaged. You need to get everybody engaged. So that's something that I'm learning.
Now, in your district, I think there's also a big issue with the Airbnb.
You know, if somebody is staying in their apartment and they want to rent a room in their apartment, as long as they're, you know, they reside there with, you know, as a permanent resident, I think that's fine. A lot of New Yorkers I know, you know, everybody's sort of struggling. So whatever they can do to make a little money, to actually make ends meet, I wouldn't begrudge anybody that.
But do you agree that people that are just getting apartments to Airbnb them out on a consistent basis, should that be illegal?
No, I mean, you probably shouldn't do that. Yeah, but I think if you live in the apartment, I think that should be fine.
And maybe if you're going on vacation or something, being able to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. So, but as long as you are the permanent resident and you're basically there.
All right, now schools. It's a big
Schools.
issue
Yes,
in,
it is.
in
Yes,
this
it
city.
is.
And as more and more residential buildings are going up
Right.
in the district, how do you plan to alleviate the overcrowding in schools? And I mean, and in your district, you actually do have some of the most coveted.
You know, for me personally, I would like to support public schools as opposed to charter schools. You know, I think it's important to that everybody has access to a really good education. And with the overcrowding, if you implement programs like getting rid of the 421A subsidy and being able to put that money towards whether it's affordable housing, building new schools so there's not overcrowding, I mean, that's something we can do. So.
Now, you keep on talking about 421, but would you also, how would you deal with the rezoning issues? Or do you think that taking away the tax subsidies would take care of the rezoning issues in and of themselves?
In terms of rezoning, you know, the 20-80 split of the rezoning, where it's 20% affordable housing and 80% market rate, a lot of people that I talk to, you know, basically say that they want to, you know, make the 20-80 more 50-50. So that's something that people tell me.
If developers were doing something like a 50-50 split, do you think at that point they should have some sort of subsidies when they were doing things like that? And do you think there should be upzoning allowed if they were going to actually bring that many apartments into market that were low and middle income, affordable?
You know, again, I feel like a developer that develops in Manhattan, I mean, I feel like should not get a tax subsidy. I feel like we have to balance the needs of the community with, you know, with property owners, with the developers. So I just feel I think you need to put the community's interest first.
So we just take the money that you would get from them and not giving the tax breaks to putting that towards building
Affordable housing.
Building affordable
Yes,
housing.
yes.
And then, do you believe in community policing?
I do believe in community policing. I think it's important that that the police and the community work together. You know, so people from the community can work with the police, and the police can actually be on the beat. I believe that there should be community policing, definitely.
All right, and you know, I mean, so they've started a new program, like the NCO program, in some areas of the city, where there are actual officers that are given to certain blocks of communities.
Right, and get to know the people.
Right.
And yes.
Kind of like what we used to see, you know, years ago, where you had the beat cop that knew every kid on the corner.
Right. No, I think that's a really good program.
Okay, great. Now, you are on the eco-justice line.
Right.
Pedestrian safety, excessive noise, air pollution are utmost concern of, of the members of the district. And how will you work to ensure that sufficient resources from the city are allocated to address these issues and needs?
I mean, one thing I see in my district is that there's a tremendous amount of construction. So it's almost like the construction is taking over the pedestrian walkways, taking over the streets, taking the traffic, is the congestion of the traffic. One thing that I would do, you know, maybe we do need congestion pricing, something that the mayor's been talking about, and also, you know, maybe regulating those areas where there's a tremendous amount of construction, you know, so pedestrians can walk freely and there's the flow of traffic. is able to move quickly and unencumbered. So that's something that I would do.
Wouldn't it be nice if there was a schedule of street closures so you don't have like 3 streets in a
Exactly.
row that all have cranes at
That's
the same
right,
day?
that's right. Because it really goes on at the Hudson Yards. There's a tremendous amount of that kind of thing. So
Yeah. All right. Now, we're talking about affordable housing. But one of the issues is, and especially in your neighborhood, and especially like in the Chelsea area and in Hell's Kitchen, there were a lot of the older buildings, the old law tenements. And there's a lot of harassment of tenants.
There is.
And what kind of measures would you try to put in place to help protect tenants from tenant harassment?
I mean, one thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to make sure that tenants have access to legal representation, and legal representation that goes beyond kind of a simplistic sort of paradigm where that somebody is. I have a friend actually who has a complicated rights of succession issue, and he's gone to sort of the available attorneys that the district offers, and they tell him that your case is too complicated. We really can't do it because we don't have the resources. But maybe giving more resources to tenants where they can get legal representation, and maybe a community liaison where people can go, where they have more access, to talk to somebody about their problems. So.
Well, so
Like devote more resources.
So in your office, one of your main functions will be constituent services.
Right,
so
right.
I guess that will be a part of your
Right,
office.
no, totally. I mean, constituents need representation, definitely.
All right, and then.
I mean, that happens to me actually now. People come to me with issues and with housing issues, but people approach me. I'm a candidate, but even when I was a protester, people would see my name in the paper and call me up about housing issues. So it's kind of interesting. But people need help.
Yeah.
So.
And there are a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
And then, will your role be if you were elected to represent the district in discouraging discrimination against marginalized communities such as immigrants, Muslims, LGBTQ individuals, and people of color?
What's interesting now is I guess the schools don't now give any statistics on discrimination. I mean, one thing that I'd like to do is to really institute a program that pressures all the schools to give really good statistics on who's being bullied, who's being discriminated against, and taking that data and like creating a program where we can fight discrimination. So.
Well, Marni, it's been a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The general election is on Tuesday, November 7th. For more information about voting, locating your poll site, and all the candidates, you can visit the League of Women Voters website, lwvnyc.org, gothamgazette.com, amsterdamnews.com, or mnn.org. Thank you for watching Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Have a great day.